So, welcome. Today may be a little bit of a rant. Absolutely. It's kind of one of those things. My fiance did tell me before I came in, she said, well, don't be too hard or too angry with them. And I said, that's not what I have to worry about. And honestly, the people that, half the time, the people that really need to hear this aren't the ones that are showing up anyway. You guys are doing what you need to. So congratulations on that. I mean, that's, one of the biggest things that you need to do consistently. And so on the high performance call today, look, these are Monday through Friday, noon Eastern time every day. You see them on the YouTube channel. They go up live about 8 hours after we are live here. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can catch any of the calls that you missed. If you've got a Google Drive from your accountability reps and you look and you go, the dates don't quite match up. That's true, because when I brought on my assistant to do all of that video editing, he got a bunch of them up. And so the dates don't quite line up, but you can find the topics. Just search by topics, guys. Look for the things that you feel can benefit you. There's a lot of different things that we've gone over. So on that note, I was given a couple of questions from some of you guys, and I wanted to touch on those. And please, by all means, drop in and answer some if you think one of these things stands out to you. So number one, we get some people, if you are occasionally feeling unfocused or overwhelmed, by show of hands or by comments, just drop a me into the comment box. How many of you guys have ever gotten to that point you feel overwhelmed once in a while, right? Maybe you're going through your day, you feel unfocused and you get frustrated about it and you go, wonder what's going on and why is this happening? Why is that happening? It's just because, I'm lazy, or we talked about the ADHD. Maybe it's that, or, this person's taking me off course and that there's all of these things, and we beat ourselves up. And at the end of the day, man, I spent half of the day just so unfocused. I couldn't think clearly. Things just weren't aligning for me. What the hell's going on? Why wasn't I able to do that? And here's what I do. We have the overwhelm, but the first key point that I want to look at is that feeling of not being able to focus, of being a little scattered. Okay. So this is what I do. And understanding who you are and how you think and what goes on in your brain and your body is going to be an important part of how you solve this. Okay. Number one, the first thing that I do is I think about my diet over the last couple of days. Am I eating the right way? Okay. Now this is, as long as you're not fasting. Blake, I think, posted something in the group about fasting, something that he's doing. But I look at my food intake, because there is a way, if my food is way out of whack, if I'm eating too many fried foods, or if I've got too much, the wrong type of fats or too much sodium, it messes up everything. And it's hard for me to function during the day. Or if, a lot of people I try the intermittent fasting, or I do something, or I just get busy during the day and you skip a meal or two or three. And if you don't have the right energy in your system, that becomes an issue. And it becomes an issue in your brain. And we've talked about this in different calls, but the enzymes, the probiotics, all of these things. And together with that, my water intake, am I hydrated enough? If those things are out of whack, sometimes something simple there will put me back on track. So intermittent fasting and keto, obviously I'm not, every one of you has a different situation. That can work great for some people in certain situations. The key to ketosis is having the ketones in your system to give you an alternate form of energy that you're burning. And I'm not getting into a drawn out conversation there. Some of you guys know it a lot better. We have, some doctors that could do that training. But the point is your body needs the right kinds of fuels. And if you're either not eating or you're eating the right kind of food, it affects your brain and how you think, right? And if you're not hydrated, that's another thing. Right? Then the oxygen that's in your blood isn't able to get to your brain. So you're not going to think clearly. So that's the first thing that I look at. The second thing that I look at is, am I partaking too much caffeine? Have I had too many cups of coffee? Or occasionally I'll take a pre-workout as I'm getting ready to go to the gym. And then something comes up and I don't get to the gym. And I'm sitting there and I'm working and I'm thinking, why am I anxious? What is going on right now? Right? And if you stop and go, wait, well, I had the coffee and the pre-workout and I'm still sitting here. That's why I'm anxious and nervous. It has nothing to do with my current situation or what's going on. So looking at your caffeine intake or vitamin intake or any of those things, look at what you're ingesting to figure things out. Next, I look at, kind of where my thoughts are. I sit down and I go, okay, I look at kind of an 80-20 rule, and this is a more drawn out process. So I'll sit down and I'll write things out and kind of debate like what's going on, what's going to get me to 80% of the results, where's the 20% of the effort that I should be spending there. And then on the flip side, I look at, so on the positive, I'm looking at kind of the, like the positive emotional states and what's helping me become more active, whether it's working out or talking with a mentor or doing different things. But then I also look at the 20% of things that are giving me 80% of the negatives. So are there activities, people, or situations that are putting me in a state that's increasing that anxiety or leaving me other thoughts that affects how I'm able to focus? Right? And I hope that makes sense. Sometimes just this inability to focus, guys, are these other circumstances that we're not dealing with or we're not paying attention to. And if you just focus some on that, it'll help you recenter yourself. And when we're not paying attention to them, it's easier to fall into that overwhelm. Now, another thing with overwhelm that plays into one of the things that I saw posted in the group chat. Some people get overwhelmed, get frustrated, and they want to quit, or they start blaming certain things because and we do this a lot of times in our life, but we're expecting a certain situation, a certain outcome, because we've created a timeline that doesn't make sense with reality. And our level of activity hasn't increased to the point where achieving that outcome within the timeline that we've set up is something that's possible. Okay. So an easy way to say that is we expect to make a bunch of money or get a bunch of leads or lose a bunch of weight or do something with our relationship in a few days or a week or 2 weeks, but then we continue our current level of activity and we maybe raise it by 5 or 10%. We change a little bit. And honestly, it's not nearly enough, especially if you're trying to do something quickly. Number one, the first thing you got to do is change habits. Number two, you got to look at the reality of what's needed and follow that, and not bitch and moan about your situation not changing because you're unwilling to do it. And I'm hesitant to talk about specific examples because I don't want to call out specific individuals, even though I know they're not on this call. I know they're not here. And I've seen them in a lot of different places, not just them, but examples of them. And let's call them. And I apologize if anyone on here is named, has these names, but we'll call them Karen and Jim, because there's a bunch of memes going around right now about Karens and is it Jim's or Roberts or whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? People that feel a sense of entitlement, like I've done this, I deserve that. Guys, when we look at honoring the struggle, we were talking about last week, the scarcity and abundance mindset. We were looking at clarity versus certainty. There is so much possible if you're just willing to be patient and work through and raise your level of activity and think creatively and look outside the box and just do something different than you've always done. Quit trying to say, well, this is who I am and you can't change. I legit saw that written by someone recently where they were wanting this other result. And someone said, well, if you do this and this and this, and the response was, I'm a person, you can't try to change me. Well, then quit complaining, accept where you're at in life and keep rolling and go about and do your thing. Okay. So anyway, if I go too far in depth there, I'm just going to end up pissing some people off. So, and I know a lot of you guys are working, just be patient with yourselves, work through it, do what you need to do. You'll get where you're looking to go if you stay consistent. Next, along with kind of that overflow or the inability to focus or feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I think once in a while, what you guys need to do is look at the state that you're in physically, the biomechanical state. Sometimes what's required when that stress and that frustration is there, sometimes what's required is getting up and doing some push-ups or some jumping jacks or stretching, doing a little bit of yoga, going for a quick walk, doing some breathing exercises. Sometimes it's just physically changing the state of being that we're in right now will help alleviate some of the stress. right? Especially when you're working on something like this and you're sitting at a computer and you've got all your stresses through the day and you've been sitting in an office. Now you're sitting down and you're trying to do this, and you can still hear the kids or your spouse in the background asking why the laundry wasn't done, or the kids are tearing things up, or they're too quiet and you're going, what the hell's going on with them? Right? Or something else is happening, right? I noticed the other day I was sitting here and I've mentioned this before, but paying bills, I try to automate. I think I've got every single thing almost everything automated where it just comes out of the account. So I don't even have to look at it, because I don't like looking at those based on my relationship with money in the past. I just get frustrated with bills. Well, yesterday afternoon, I was doing some things and I just felt my anxiety was a little bit higher. I looked down and there was a bill next to me that I had opened up and I had set there. And I know subconsciously, like, it kept drawing my eye to it, right? Something simple. And I'm on here and I'm trying to plan out different ideas and things to talk about and some positive messages. And I've got this bill sitting there and it's frustrating me. So I moved it, got up, moved myself around, went for a walk, came back, and I was totally fine. Sometimes it's simply the state of being that you're in that you need to change. So think about that sometimes. And then the next thing, if I start to change that state of being, think about the story that you're telling yourself. The story that you are telling yourself, right? There's a great book, and maybe we'll review it here soon, but it's the words that we tell ourselves, I think is the name. But thinking about the things that we're, that conversation that we're constantly having in our head of why things work, why it doesn't, why I'm feeling stressed, why I'm not. A lot of times those elements are what's keeping you from moving to that next level. It's the story you tell yourself. This is where affirmations and that positive reinforcement, this is where journaling or some of those elements come into play. If you're struggling with the story that you've had for your entire life, understand that you're the only one that can rewrite it. So sit down and start telling yourself a different story. If you want to live a different story, then simply become the author of the story you want to live, right? Because you are the main character. You're the hero. You just got to decide which pathway you want to go. You're either the hero or the prince or the princess or whoever, but you get to decide what your story is going to be. Ernie saying we're in lockdown again, kids homeschool next week. Brother, I don't know what to say right there, but that can be an amazing thing if you want it to be. And I know it's hard to hear after a year of being in lockdown, but try to figure out ways that you can make it awesome. Try to make it something that you never imagined possible. And I promise if you do it, the kids will probably get frustrated with you right at the very beginning, but you can turn it into a memorable experience. Okay, next, just to kind of wrap up, the last thing that I wanted to talk about, someone asked me about their skills that they had developed. Now, inside the Big Leap, they talk about, your zone of competency and your zone of greatness, and then your zone of genius, right? And we've talked about talents before, and a lot of you are kind of going through things and you're looking at it and going, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this because what I'm great at is this. Odds are the things that you're good at, you're simply good at because that's what you've been doing for a certain period of time, right? You've been doing it for 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 years. It has nothing to do with who you truly are or what you're truly capable of. Some of you, given time and the right environment and the right motivation, the right purpose, will become some of the best story writers, copywriters this world has ever known. But you've got to be willing enough to be patient to achieve that. You've got to be the one that's going to fertilize the ground, prepare that environment, give yourself the nutrients to make that a possibility. Some of you guys have a purpose and a message that you're looking to share with people and communities and individuals, and is a voice that should be heard. But you're too scared to because you're hiding behind this idea that, well, I'm an accountant, I'm an office manager, I'm in IT, I do this, I do that. That's what I'm good at. That's what my talent is. Look, I spent 12 years in cleaning and restoration, and I've said this before. I don't know how many people grow up thinking they want to clean carpet, or how many people grow up thinking they want to, frame houses. And I doubt any of you, even if you became this, and I'm not speaking evil against it, but not many of you grew up saying, I want to be a CPA or whatever, fill in the blank. How did you get there? Well, you got there because at some point someone said, listen, you got to grow up and you got to join reality and you got to find something that's a good job that pays you enough to pay the bills. And then you got to suck it up because that's reality. That's real life. You just got to do it. Okay, great. Do it. Pay your bills while you build your dream, while you build yourself enough to live your dream. And understand that living your dream means it's going to be crushed once in a while. You don't get to live your dream without any kind of obstacles in the way. 1 in a million get to do that. And if that's going to be you, great. Maybe one of you is that 1 in a million, but odds are there's going to be those ups and downs. All of those overnight sensations that you've seen are people that have been working for a decade. And you may need to reinvent yourself. This may be the moment where, you open up your heart and mind and soul to something that you buried when you were 12 years old. Yeah, skills and purpose, developing those skills. Now, we talked about those high performance skills. Those play out no matter what you're trying to do. Raising that necessity, generating energy, finding clarity and confidence. All of those skills will play out no matter where you're at. Guys, some of you may have already found that purpose or those skills or who you truly are. And I applaud you if you have. And if you haven't, sit down and think a bit. Study, develop self-awareness, figure out who you are, talk to people, go read The Big Leap, read StrengthsFinder 2.0. There's a talent code. There's a lot of different books that can help you just figure out who you are. And then you work your ass off to do what you need to pay the bills while you build your dream, and be willing to do that. Right? So Jocelyn says relationships, exercise, career, spirituality are what fuels and feeds us. If we lack fulfillment, it will affect our drive, focus, mood, and motivation. Yeah, there's a lot of all of us are fed differently on that point. Some of us are fed by the fulfillment financially, wealth, what we've got there. That's only going to take you so far though. Relationships, and if you think, well, I just don't have the relationships that'll get me where I want to be, then you need to find some. If you've always, if you are trying to say you're a loner, I will tell you there's power in the right relationships. And the right relationships typically take work to develop. And then all relationships take work to maintain. Now, sometimes you may need to sit down and evaluate the relationships that you're in and decide if the work that you're putting in to maintain it is beneficial enough to warrant the stress of staying inside of it. It doesn't mean you need to eliminate the people completely from your life, but some of you are holding on to relationships simply because they've always been there and they're dragging you down. And some of the ones that you've given up because you've spent so much time focusing on these ones over here that have just been issues and drama for so long, and frustration and complication and things that stress you out. You've given up on potential relationships with friends or family members or mentors or mentees, relationships that could have propelled you to the next level. If you want to start seeing those things, you got to start telling yourself the story that you're available for them, that you're open to them, that your eyes are wide open to possibilities, and you got to keep telling yourself that you're looking for it. Because it's just like any garden. The more that you nurture, the more you're going to get. And if we nurture frustration and anxiety and stress and drama, that's exactly what we're going to get. Look at the news over the course of the last few years. Right? That's exactly what they continue to produce, because that's what they're nurturing. And then you have happiness. Happiness is one of those things that's pretty interesting. It's a rarity. Happiness, true happiness, and people that are striving to be happy, and people are trying to do more, and you guys fit that category. Hopefully all of you do. But those that are trying to achieve happiness, we're the oddballs. We're the ones that don't quite fit in. Being unwilling to bitch and moan about everything, trying to lift yourself up, trying to be positive, trying to look for something good in every situation, that makes you strange and different. And a lot of people don't like that. And you got to get to the point where you go, I don't care. This is who I am and who I'm going to be. It may be lonely at first, but you can find people to turn them into your tribe. And yeah, Andrew, I appreciate that's why you're all here. And hopefully all of you guys are trying to create some of those relationships now. Become better. Become more. And as always, rise up from the ashes, fly like the phoenixes that you are. I appreciate you guys.